You ever notice how strange this feels? You want to change your life, not in a dramatic way, not in a new year, new me way, just quietly. You want to wake up earlier. You want to focus better. You want to stop wasting time. You want to become the version of yourself you keep thinking about. But nothing moves. No internal push. No spark, no pull. You're not depressed, you're not hopeless, you're just stuck. And the worst part? You still care. If you didn't care, it wouldn't bother you, but it does, which creates a confusing feeling. On the outside, it looks like laziness. On the inside, it feels more like paralysis. Most people think motivation is something you either have or don't have, like a personality trait. Some people are driven. Some people are lazy. It sounds simple. It's also wrong. Motivation isn't who you are. Motivation is something your brain releases, and your brain only releases it under certain conditions. Not when you yell at yourself, not when you shame yourself, not when you watch another motivational video. Your brain asks a quieter question. Is it safe to start? Not safe physically, safe emotionally, safe mentally, safe energetically. Before you begin anything, your brain runs a fast, invisible calculation. How heavy will this feel? How long will this take? How much will this drain me? If the predicted cost feels high, motivation doesn't appear. Not to punish you, not to sabotage you, but to protect you. Because from your brain's perspective, starting something that feels overwhelming looks like walking into danger. So it cuts the fuel. No excitement, no desire, no internal let's go. That's why you can want change and still feel nothing toward doing it. That gap is the real problem, and almost nobody explains it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. You're not lazy. Your brain is tired of expecting pain. Think about your recent history. How many times have you tried to get your life together by pushing too hard, setting unrealistic plans, promising massive change, only to burn out a few days later? Each time that happens, your brain learns starting leads to exhaustion. Starting leads to pressure. Starting leads to disappointment. So the next time you think about improving your life, your brain remembers and quietly says, let's not. Not because you can't, not because you shouldn't, but because it's trying to protect you from another emotional crash. That's the foundation. And once you see this, a lot begins to make sense. If this kind of breakdown helps you understand yourself better, you'll probably want to subscribe. These videos aren't about hype, they're about clarity. Now, let's talk about why motivation shows up randomly and disappears just as fast. A lot of people notice the same pattern. At night, they feel motivated. They think about fixing their life, organizing things, starting fresh tomorrow. They feel hopeful. Then morning comes. Same goals, same intentions, zero drive. It feels confusing, but it isn't random. At night, external pressure drops. No emails, no expectations, no one needing anything from you. Your nervous system finally gets a small break. And when pressure drops, your brain briefly feels safer. That safety allows motivation to surface, not because you became disciplined, but because the emotional cost temporarily feels lower. Morning changes everything. Your brain scans the day ahead, tasks, responsibilities, unfinished problems, social demands. The cost spikes. Your brain runs the same calculation. This day looks heavy. Motivation shuts off. Same person, same goals, different internal conditions. This is why waiting to feel motivated rarely works. Motivation isn't a starting engine, it's a signal. It appears when your brain believes the load is manageable. Here's a hard truth. Trying to force motivation increases resistance. When you tell yourself, I have to fix my life, I'm running out of time, I need to get serious, your brain hears threat. Threat tightens the nervous system. Tight nervous systems avoid effort. Avoidance kills motivation. It becomes a loop, not because you're broken, but because your system is stuck in defense mode. Another layer most people miss: motivation relies on self-trust, not confidence, trust. Trust that you won't overwhelm yourself, you won't collapse halfway through, you won't mentally drown. If you've repeatedly overworked yourself in the past, your brain stops trusting your promises. So when you say, I'm going to change everything, your brain thinks, I've heard this before, and blocks motivation, not out of cruelty, out of pattern recognition. This is why dreaming feels easy, but starting feels heavy. Dreaming is safe. Starting is where past pain lives. Once you see this, you stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what has my brain learned to fear? That question changes everything. Now let's talk about effort. Most advice says just push through it. Discipline beats motivation. Do it even when you don't feel like it. Some of that is true, but it ignores nervous system reality. Discipline without safety becomes self-punishment. When you constantly force yourself, you associate growth with suffering. Your brain connects improvement with pain. So every future attempt feels heavier. You don't just avoid the task, you avoid the emotional memory attached to it. That's why you can sit in front of something important and feel physically stuck. It's not lack of willpower, it's your brain saying, this feels unsafe. Real change starts differently. Not with extreme effort, not with massive plans, but by lowering the perceived cost of starting. Your brain doesn't need proof that you can do everything. It needs proof that starting won't destroy you. Small proof, gentle proof, boring proof. When starting feels small, motivation begins to appear naturally. Not as hype, not as excitement, but as quiet willingness. That's the version of motivation that lasts. Another shift: stop asking, how do I become a better person? Ask, how do I make my life feel lighter? Lighter systems, lighter expectations, lighter goals. A lighter life creates space. Space creates safety. Safety creates motivation. Some people seem naturally driven, not because they're superior, but because their internal environment feels manageable. They're not constantly fighting themselves. They're not drowning in pressure. You don't need to become someone else. You need to build conditions that allow your brain to relax. Now, motivation isn't broken. It isn't unreliable. It's situational. It appears when your nervous system feels safe. It disappears when your nervous system feels threatened. Most people live in constant low-level overload. Too much stimulation, too many expectations, too much internal pressure. In that environment, motivation can only flicker. It shows up briefly, then vanishes. The solution isn't to chase motivation. The solution is to change the internal environment. Less self-attack, less catastrophic thinking, less unrealistic planning. More patience, more simplicity, more compassion. Not in a soft way, in a strategic way, because a calm system is a productive system. If you remember one sentence from this video, remember this: you don't need more motivation. You need a brain that feels safe enough to start. When safety grows, motivation follows, quietly, naturally, without force. If this video helped you see yourself more clearly, subscribe. More videos like this are coming, not to hype you up, not to pressure you, but to help you understand yourself. That's where real change begins.